Alrighty. Hello. Can anyone hear me at all? It looks like it's working. Can you guys confirm in the chat? Can someone hear me and see me right now? I am like clearly just learning on the fly. This is the first ever live stream. I am here trying to respond to comments and also control this thing is a little tough. I need like a team of people doing this, right? Cool. Looks like you guys are able to hear me and see me well. Apologize you have to see me, but hey, I have a face for radio. Hello from Costa Rica. How's it going, Alejandro? I know I missed some folks earlier. All you guys that are here, it's amazing. Like, it's amazing you guys are here. It's awesome. Ben, Andre, Isaro. If I mispronounce your name, I apologize. It's not on purpose. It's because I'm dumb. So let's just get that out the way quickly. All right. No whiskey. Ha! Yes, of course. Of course. I specifically brought it and I waited for someone. Well, I was going to pour it anyway, but someone brought it up, so I'll pour it now. No ASMR today, but yes, we will be drinking on stream so people can dislike for drinking on stream. Let's go. All right. Teddy says he's used to my vids talking in 2x. Apologize. We'll see how the whiskey does. Maybe it'll end up being like 0.5. So I'll apologize in advance for that. All right. So what are we talking about on stream? I have no idea. This was just like an idea where I was like, you know what? I've seen other people do this. It looks fun. It'd be nice to get some like real time back and forth with you guys. Answer some questions if I can. And we'll kind of go from there. So Ben says, no Hugh Hefner robe with cigar. Not today. It's at the cleaners, so not going to be able to do that. Oh, actually, I was able to get this little comment thing working. I don't know what I'm pointing at. You guys can't see that. This right here. That. I got that working, so I'll be using that kind of as we go throughout the stream. I'm pretty proud of that. It took me about a day to figure out how to get that to work, so, cool. Let's see. Making history live. I don't know if it's going to be that dramatic, but it will be the first one, so there's that. All right. Let's see what else we got. All right, so let's talk first, and I'll just look at the chat as we go. But let's talk about Taiwan Semi because it pulled back today. Actually, I think I can share my screen. Let's see if I can get this to work. All right, this is my screen. Oh, actually, I have something new in my portfolio that if you're not a channel member, you don't know yet, but we'll talk about that today too. So let's talk about Taiwan Semi. Now it's down about 2% today when basically everything else was up today. And it's kind of been like that, let's say for the past week or so, it's down a little over 3.5%. Oh, here, actually, let me do this. Sorry. Still getting used to my surroundings here. I'm like a baby doe trying to figure out how to walk. So yeah, it's been down and I'm pretty sure that this is mostly due to all the stuff that came out, like when JD Vance was out in the news talking about AI in America and how they want the chips to be made in America, designed and manufactured in America. I'm pretty sure that that is driving a lot of this. Now, let me try to get the comments up while I talk here because I don't want to miss what you guys are saying. Gen Z says, if I run out of topics, I'll chat about Severance. I will absolutely talk about Severance today. Hold up. Sorry. I'm like talking and I'm not showing you guys what I'm looking at. 1 second. I will definitely talk about Severance at some point on this live stream just because it's amazing and the new episode will be out tonight. So yes, we will get to that. All right. So let's talk about TSM. Now, I think a lot of this has to do with the JD Vance thing, and I actually have an Apple News article here that I can share with you guys. So if you saw the video, I don't even know where he was at, but JD Vance was talking about AI in America. And the whole thing was about, AI being a huge shift, trend, whatever you want to call it, and the administration wanting it to be a huge point of emphasis to where we keep kind of America's lead in AI. And he talked specifically about the design and manufacturing, wanting it to be in America. Now, the big challenge with that is, as you guys know, is most of the major chips, if not all of them, are made in Taiwan by Taiwan Semi. And so the problem that I think we've had is they're on a path to try to, sorry, I can't talk and like maneuver this at the same time. So I'm like going slow. But what they've tried to do is create, new manufacturing plants in the US. And so that is ongoing and happening. The problem is that the most innovative chips are still made in Taiwan. And that was kind of the plan, which I'm assuming the government over there wants to keep it that way because that helps keep them kind of at the forefront. And then there's the whole, America, China, Taiwan thing, right? Which kind of even complicates it more. So I think what people are assuming here is that you've seen stocks like Intel, and actually let's look at Intel. Intel's been on a tear ever since that announcement was made. It's still down over 44% for the year though, just FYI. But over the past 5 days, Intel's up 23% because of this, right? So it's insane. Everyone's like, okay, these chips are going to be made in the US. And so I think that's why you're seeing the issues with TSM. Now, here's the challenge, right? Just because we want to make the chips in the US doesn't mean that we can or that they have the ability to do that. And I think that's going to be a challenge that's ongoing. So actually, there was an article today. Let me find it here. Sorry. So there was an article today about this whole thing where they're basically saying that there's a rumor that there was a discussion involving Intel and TSM, and that basically they would provide engineers to Intel's manufacturing fab to help their kind of overall knowledge of how to do this, right? Now, what they've been talking about is, let me see if I can find it here. Here. So they added that the new manufacturing fab could be spun off into a new entity that's jointly owned by Taiwan Semi and Intel, but run by Taiwan Semiconductor, right? So what's interesting about that is it would solve the problem of, Intel just can't make these chips right now, right? That's just the truth of it. So if they partner with Taiwan Semi to get that information, and then it's jointly owned by Taiwan Semi and it's run by Taiwan Semi, then wouldn't that be good for Taiwan Semi long term, right? I would think yes. But if you go by what the market is doing right now, it looks like it's assuming that either it'll impact the amount of chips that are made by Taiwan Semi, or they'll be hit with things like tariffs to where it hurts their, business. So that's my thoughts on TSM. If you guys have any other thoughts, I would love to hear them in the chat. So comment here that it's your top buy. I agree. I think Taiwan Semi is a buy, assuming that you can get over the geopolitical risk, because it absolutely is there. But I've said it a million times, all roads for the best chips right now are going through them. And just because we want to make them in the US doesn't mean that we can until they're ready to make them in the US, in my opinion. Let's see. Is JD aware of the Arizona TSM plan? I don't know what JD's aware of or not. I will say the things, whoever, wrote what he said, it seemed relatively accurate from a technical perspective at the level that he was talking. So I appreciated that. The issue, I think, with the Arizona plants is that as of right now, the plan isn't for them to make all the most innovative Nvidia chips, right? So I think they were starting with Apple and some other things. So I think that is what will have to change, is that plan of what they're actually going to make there would have to be updated to do the more innovative stuff. That's my understanding of it. All right, let's see what else you guys have here in the chat. Nilton from Portugal. Hello, how's it going? I don't know what guild is. Let's look it up. I'm just making this up as I go. So I apologize if you guys are like, what is he doing? I don't know. Oh, Gilead Sciences. Okay. So I'll say what I normally say when I get questions like these on stocks that I haven't actually researched. I don't really have an opinion because I haven't researched them yet. So I would love to hear what you think about it, Milton, if you have a strong opinion, just because, I'm one of those people that if I don't have a chance to spend time to dig into it at least a little bit, I don't really have an opinion. And so I know that's kind of a boring answer, but that's the truth. All right. Let's see what else we got going on here. I can't move this anymore. My mouse is not working. We're having our first technical difficulty. Carlos, congrats on Meta being up for 19 days in a row. You know what's interesting about Meta? I was going to post something about this, but then I figure when I post stuff like this, when I'm like, hey, remember when I said this, it actually worked out. I feel like I'm bragging and I don't really want it to be like that. But Meta, so I don't know if you guys remember, but on September 12th, I did a video that was like, hey, this is the best bargain in big tech. And I said it was Meta and not Amazon or Google. And I got a bunch of comments on that video that were like, oh, you're so stupid. It definitely is not Meta because Meta's at all-time highs. But I just wanted to show you guys what Meta has done since then. Hold on. We're doing this on the fly. So September 12th. And let me add Amazon and Google real quick. So if we go back to that time from September 12th, sorry, I'm trying to get this on the stream. They were pretty much neck and neck there for a while, but then over the past, week to 10 days, Meta's just kept going up and everything else is going down. So I think this was a good lesson that just because something's at all-time highs, it doesn't mean that it's not the best bargain, right? Because Meta was at an all-time high on September 12th. It was in the 500s somehow. And so a lot of people were saying there's no way it can be the best bargain. It's at all-time highs. Well, at least up until now, it has been, because just because it's at all-time highs or just because the stock's at a 52-week low, it doesn't really mean anything in terms of where they're going next. So that's just a nice reminder. It was kind of fun when I looked back and I saw that it had been doing really well. So just wanted to share that. All right. Oh, man. El Jasper King. All right. Well, I guess we'll talk about this now. What do you think about data stocks like Snowflake, or it says MangoDB, but I know you meant MongoDB. All good. MangoDB could be interesting too if you like fruit. Won't they benefit from AI stocks? So, El Jasper King, yes, absolutely. What do I think about Snowflake? Well, I added it on Monday, so I like Snowflake a lot. Actually, MongoDB and Snowflake are both on my watch list, but I added Snowflake on Monday. Actually, we can look at it real quick. Oh, sorry, I'm not sharing my screen. You can't look at what I'm seeing. So I added Snow on Monday, and I added it at 186.92. I'm working on a whole video about that. And Snowflake, in terms of do I think it'll benefit from AI? The answer is absolutely. I'll tell y'all a little bit about Snowflake if you don't already know what it is. They're like a data warehouse and analytics platform, also for things like machine learning and all that. I just noticed that my HVAC went on. I normally turn that off when I make my videos, but you know, I was a little nervous today, so I forgot. So if you hear some like noise here, just ignore it. So Snowflake is a data warehousing and analytics platform. They're cloud based. They're cloud agnostic, which is a big, I guess, benefit because their big competitors are like AWS and Microsoft and Google, right? But what I like about Snowflake is, and I'm going to do a full video on this, like, you know, I do my analysis deep dives, but basically Snowflake, you know, not to sound cliche, but it's like more of like the Apple of data warehouses. I don't want to say that because then it's like, oh, you're saying that they're as good as Apple. What I'm saying is they're more known for it kind of works well out the box. It scales well out the box, and you don't have the ability to do as many customizations as maybe other platforms. But for a lot of users, you know, that's preferred. The other nice part they have is they have a data marketplace, which I thought was super interesting, where you can share live data either for free or you can actually put it up there and make, you know, money from it, like, you know, have it up for sale, which I thought was interesting. So people say, oh, it's the, you know, Amazon of live data marketplaces. So again, I don't like to use those terms because I'm not trying to say they're as good as Amazon. But Snowflake is one of those where, you know, it's going to be another one that when I make the video and I show the fundamentals, I'm going to get a lot of people in the comments saying, you know, why would you buy this stock? So it was in the realm of like what I did with Cloudflare. It's a tech company that I think is right in the middle of a bunch of secular trends. And I think that they have enough market advantages to be a winner, even more so than they already are. And so I'm invested in it. So I'm pretty excited about that. So we'll talk more about Snowflake later, but yes, you caught on very quickly and you kind of ruined my surprise, but that's okay. It's all right. Let's see what else you guys got. What are my top stocks to buy and hold to outperform the S&P 500 and NASDAQ 100, I'm assuming? I mean, that's a tough question. I don't really have like, hey, these specific stocks are going to outperform. In general, most of the stocks that I am buying right now, I believe will outperform, right? So like, for instance, I just said like Snowflake, like I wouldn't have bought Snowflake if I didn't think it was going to outperform. I wouldn't have bought Cloudflare if I didn't think it was going to outperform. I wouldn't have added to Taiwan Semi if I didn't think it was going to outperform, right? So it's kind of like one of those things where whatever I'm buying at the time is obviously what I think is going to outperform. Otherwise, I wouldn't be buying it. Hopefully that makes sense. Good day from Sydney, Australia. Any thoughts on hymns? All right, Andre, here's my thoughts on hymns. You may not like my thoughts on hymns though. I looked at it briefly, and actually here, let's look at the thing. This is like Fast and Furious. Like I have no idea how much time has gone by. I have like the interior lights and all the blinds closed. Like it's like Vegas in here. I have no idea what's going on. So I looked at hymns briefly. Oh my goodness, I did not see this. It's up 27% today. So I guess I'm late on hymns is what you're saying. Is that why you asked me about it? You're like, tell me why you missed this thing that went up 27% today. I'm trying to find the earnings are like why is it because of this that hymns went up today? I have no idea. If you guys know in the comments, let me know. I assumed it would be earnings, but it doesn't look like it was earnings, does it? I guess not. Anyway, so my thought on hymns was I didn't really understand what their advantage was, right? And I know a lot of people talk about it, especially on X, and everyone's like, "Oh, this is a great company. You know, it's trading at a good valuation. It's like has all this stuff." But then when I looked at their site, it was like a lot of things like, you know, ED meds, hair loss meds, and all that stuff's fine. I mean, I don't have a problem with it. It was just more of I didn't really get what their tangible market advantage was, right? So, And of course, I'm invested in Amazon. So it's one of those things where Amazon now has a pharmacy, which is pretty awesome because you get, basically prime delivery. But and obviously that only makes sense for things that are recurring and all that type of stuff. It doesn't make sense for things that you need immediately. But I thought that was a disruptor for him. Clearly, based on the market reaction, it doesn't seem that that's true. So I would love to know if you guys have any info on why that is. I'm looking through the chat here, but I don't see it. They expanded. Oh, here, let me come back here. Sorry, still learning how to work this. So they expanded into weight loss and telehealth and mental health. So yeah, so I guess the telehealth thing was another thing that I saw of theirs, and I actually used telehealth. I don't know if you guys remember last year when I had my whole vertigo issue. I actually used a telehealth thing with our insurance provider, but it was through an app called MD Live. And to me, that made a ton of sense because it was just like a basic visit where it would have been really hard for me to get somewhere without, having a really rough time. And so that worked great, but I didn't know kind of what Hims' market advantage was. Like what makes them special compared to, say, Amazon just being like, hey, I'm going to do this now. And I just didn't know. So that's why I kind of wasn't into it. It just wasn't the, stock for me. And what I tell people all the time is my goal is not to find every opportunity, right? Because it's just impossible. There's only so many things you can be an expert on. There's only so many things you can be really knowledgeable on. And so what I try to do is I try to stay with things that I understand a little bit better. And I mean, that's why you've seen me cut a bunch of companies where I was like, yeah, I don't really understand this business. UNH is one. Even Lulu, which I understand their business, but retail and clothing is not an area where I'm an expert, right? So that's kind of why I wasn't all that into it. Plus, in general, I'm just going to say this to you guys here on stream. When I find a stock that like everyone on X is talking about how great it is, I tend to kind of shy away from it just because, like I might still look at it, but I feel like overall the alpha there, when everyone's talking about the same stock, I just don't feel that it's, true or that it comes to fruition, more often than not. AMD is another one, which we can talk about if you guys want to talk about. But anyway, all right. Let's see what else we got going on. I think I already shared the TSM article, but I wanted to share with you guys this Apple thing if I could figure out how to work this again. So there was, goodness. So there was a couple articles about Apple getting into robotics, and I was wondering if y'all saw this. I'm actually going to play this video if I could figure out how to work things again.
Researchers from Apple's machine learning team brought the Pixar lamp to life. Elegant, like many other robots, performs functional movements such as completing tasks, overcoming spatial constraints, and demonstrating time efficiency. But it also has expressive qualities characteristic to humans, such as paying attention, showing intent, and attitude. In their study, which focuses on making non-anthropomorphic robots both utilitarian and engaging, the researchers working on Elegant tested how humans engage with an expression-driven versus a function-driven robot across 6 different tasks. When asked about the weather outside, the expressive robot turns towards the window, much like a person would, before it gives a report. It also prepares to stretch its body when asked to reach the other corner of the desk. It dances to music in the kitchen and seems to express disappointment when told it's not invited to a hike. According to the researchers, those expression-driven movements enhance the way users engage with and perceive the robot, especially when it comes to social-oriented tasks. And though it's not yet known when and if the prototype lamp will be available to buy, Apple seems to be shifting its focus towards home robotics.
All right, so how many of you want a Apple's home robotics lamp like that? I thought it was super cool actually. And what I think about this is, obviously, that's just like a lamp and it dances with, whatever. It's more of a novelty than anything. But what I thought was interesting is like Apple is the type of brand that I think could totally make the switch to be like, hey, we're going to put a robot in your home, right? Even if it's not like a humanoid robot, right? Even though they are working on that, like, hold on. So outside of like these home robotics robots, what does that even mean? They're also working on a humanoid like robot, which will be like a rival to, I guess, like Optimus for Tesla, right? So I don't know if you guys saw that, but I felt like Apple's the type of brand where they could kind of make it okay to be like, I'm going to let this robot in my house and do something. The challenge will be, can they make it to where it actually works as well as you would expect an Apple product to work? I don't know. I'm curious to hear what y'all think about that. Hey, Travis says hit the like button. Agreed. Please do that. This is so weird because I'm talking, but I don't get like real-time feedback. So I'm like, man, is everyone like, what is he talking about right now? El Jasper King, do you use Trustpilot or Glassdoor because Hims and Duolingo have bad scores? Not really. So, I've used Trustpilot and stuff just when I'm looking up a business that I may use or do business with. But even then, I think Trustpilot and all that, like I think a lot of people, they kind of scam it or they like manufacture reviews. So not really. I definitely don't use it with stocks, but it's kind of interesting though, because I may now, because I think it's an interesting thing to look at. I used to look at Net Promoter Score with stocks, which I think is an interesting thing to look at, which is funny because Snowflake actually shows it every quarter in their infographic, which I hadn't seen that before. So that's kind of interesting. So yeah. All right. Hey, Matt, do you have a price target for Nvidia from which you would be selling or trimming? This is a good question. I haven't really talked about this much, but I've thought about it. Now, in general, I'm a huge fan of Nvidia. You guys know this. It's not like, yes, it's a stock that's gone up a ton and like momentum and all that type of stuff, but I really do believe in the business. And I read The Nvidia Way, which is an excellent book if you like Nvidia or you're interested in Nvidia. Highly recommend it. And it was super interesting to hear the backstory of Jensen and the company and all the things that they went through. And more importantly, how long they've been concentrated on AI as their primary focus. Like this hasn't been like a 5-year thing. It's been like a 10 to 15-year thing. And so in general, I'm a huge fan of their business. I think that, everyone's been saying, hey, it's the top, it's, going to crash soon. It's all this stuff. I don't see that. I do think that their growth is going to slow down though, right? At some point, they just can't keep growing at the rate that they're growing. What I've consistently said is that I still think 2025 is going to be a great year for Nvidia, and I still believe that. What I told myself is that as we get into Q2, Q3, Q4, I'm going to start looking at, okay, what does the growth look like? What does the outlook look like? Are they starting to slow a little bit? And what does the stock price look like at that time? So it doesn't mean that I'm going to sell. It just means that I'm going to start looking at it, right? Just because it is one of those things where I'll probably want to hold Nvidia, like even if I decide to get rid of part of it, but I may not keep it as my number 2, largest holding, knowing that at some point the growth rate has to slow, right? What I thought about doing is maybe what I did with Cloudflare. So with Cloudflare, after it doubled, I sold half of it and I'm just going to let the other half ride. If Nvidia happens to hit, I don't even remember what hold on, let's look at what my Good Lord. I like have all these windows open. I have no idea what's where. So if we look at my portfolio, my cost basis for Nvidia is 89.13. So, if it got to 180, would I consider trimming some? Maybe, right? At that point, it would be like, let's assume that happens over the next month or so. It would mean that it doubled in a year. Again, everybody should do it in the way that makes them comfortable. But I'm one of those people that even if I love a company, right, if it doubles in a year, I should probably consider if I should take some profits off the table. If I don't think it's trading at an attractive, multiple anymore, right? It doesn't mean that I won't hold anything like forever. I might, right? But I think you should at least look at it. It's just being practical. At the end of the day, it's like I said in my last video, right? The goal is not to brag to people on the internet about, how much you made on a stock or what percentage it went up. I think the goal is to make your life better, help your family, help your loved ones. And if you can do that because you had a big win, then, you should do that, right? I don't think it's ever bad when, people decide to do that. So for me, I have no plans to get rid of Nvidia, but I'm going to watch the business. I'm going to watch the growth rate. I think they're going to do good in 2025. If it approaches 180, I'll probably look to trim some. That's my thought. Sorry, I'm like bouncing everywhere. You guys are probably like, this is the worst streamer ever. Nate asked, what do I think of Intuit? And I just want to confirm Intuit is Intuit. And it is. And so I will talk about Intuit because someone's asked me about it in the past. Intuit is a company that when you look, and actually we can take a look at their fundamentals real quick. Not Intel. Intuit is a company where if you look at their fundamentals, right, it's decent growth, like revenue growth is strong. Earnings per share growth is good. Operational cash flow growth is, mid-teens. That's solid. When you look at their profitability, excellent. Gross profit margin, net income margin, good. Leverage free cash flow margin, good. All that's fine, right? If you look at the valuation, it's not terrible. Now, granted, I've been looking at stocks like Cloudflare and Snowflake, so this doesn't look crazy to me anymore. But, price to cash flow, projected price to cash flow, 27. That's not crazy, right? It's whatever. But here is my challenge with Intuit. If I look at all the fundamentals, Intuit looks fine. I just hate them. That's the problem. I hate them. I use TurboTax every year and I hate it. I don't know how vulgar I want to be on the stream, but I just don't like them because when I use TurboTax, now I've used it for over a decade now. So it's one of those things where if I stop using it, it will just be extremely painful to get out of, which is obviously a great thing for the company. And that's why people like their business. But using TurboTax now, it's like so spammy and like scammy and trying to do stuff. And they do things like they make it seem like on the screen that you need to give them your data in order, or like their, data consent in order to be able to file your taxes, which is not true. And so it's those type of scammy type things that I just don't like. So what do I think of Intuit? I think it's a solid company if you look at fundamentals. I just hate them, and that's why I won't invest in them. So hopefully that makes sense. I'm a child. What can I say? All right, let's see what else we got going on here in the chat. Have I shared thoughts on Palantir already? I have not. So Palantir has been on my watch list for a long time. I have struggled to really understand what they do. And I've asked some people online who have talked about Palantir a lot, and I just really struggle with understanding what they do. And I mean, I understand at a very high level what they do, but what I don't understand is the nuances of their platform, what makes it great and differentiated and worth whatever they're trading at. Now, I will say this. I did stick up for Palantir a little bit on X, just because a lot of people really like to just talk about how they're, whatever, 80 price to sales or whatever the number is. Again, you guys have seen what I've been looking at lately, companies like Cloudflare, Snowflake. If you look at the fundamentals, it's not pretty, right? And the reason why I'm doing that is because I have, a small portion of my portfolio that is about companies that are like really in a secular trend, like a really strong trend, because I feel like that really drives a lot of returns, especially in the market, right? It doesn't have to be rational. And so I think Palantir is super interesting, but I literally need someone who understands it well to school me on why they're so great. I haven't looked into their CEO all that much, but I think he's kind of weird. Like, is that a positive? Is that a negative? Like, I don't really know. So it's, one of those things where I can look online, but there's so much like extreme opinions about Palantir, both good and bad, that I find it hard to get that type of information from there. So what I need is somebody who knows it well to be like, yeah, here's why it's different. Here's why at 80 price to sales or whatever it's trading at, it still might be interesting. I would love to know if someone knows. So that's my thought. I'm not against Palantir at all. Again, if you look at the stuff that I'm investing in, a lot of it is in the kind of AI adoption secular trend because I strongly believe in it. So I just need to know more. So that's my thoughts on that. And just to follow up, oh man, I'm getting like lost in the chat here. Nilton, I do not have Palantir stock, obviously. Okay. Let me try to answer this. Greetings from Peru. Amazing. How are you doing? Welcome. I don't know that I've had anybody from Peru. That's awesome. How does Trump's tariffs on chips impact Nvidia? Just to prepare myself mentally. Yeah, it's any stock, right? We always have to prepare ourselves mentally. So obviously, the quick answer is I don't know. What I believe will happen, though, is this. If we're saying in America that AI is a huge area that we want to win at and maintain our lead, then in my opinion, Nvidia absolutely has to be a part of that, if not having a leading part of whatever that is, because quite frankly, they are the leader when it comes to the hardware to be able to do any of this stuff. I don't think anybody disputes that. And so I don't know is the answer, but I think if we really want to keep our lead, then Nvidia has to be involved. So I'm just kind of taking a wait and see approach on what exactly is going to happen with the tariffs and with, how are we going to manufacture the chips here if Taiwan Semi can't. I would be shocked if ultimately the answer in America does not include both Nvidia and TSM doing that stuff here. I mean, obviously Nvidia is an American company, but I don't see any other way for that to happen in the near future. So if the answer is, hey, we're going to build it here in 2-3 years, and then, Intel is going to be able to do it. I mean, again, the only way they're going to be able to do it is with TSM's help, in my opinion. So I'm doing wait and see. I'm not going to overreact just because I understand, how big of a lead Nvidia has. So I think they have to be involved. All right. And just to follow up on that, did I already know that Jensen and Lisa Su are cousins? I did, but only because people mentioned it in the comments of my original Nvidia video. That was the first time that I found out about that. All right. Dr. Dark. Hey, Matt, just want to say I appreciate your content. You've helped me as a newer investor not make irrational decisions and slow down. I love that. That's amazing. Any help that I've ever provided in that realm is Awesome. Humbling. That's all I can say. Also, I know Dr. Dark is one of my few channel members. I don't know if you guys I actually do have channel memberships. I don't really do much. I basically, anytime that I buy or sell, I update them like with a post immediately. I may start doing some, videos and stuff for, members only. It's $5 a month. It's like super cheap. And it's just a way for, me to be like, hey, if you want to know when I buy and sell stuff immediately, I do that. All right. Bulls of Sparta. I guess there's multiple ways I could say that, but that's how I'm going to choose to say it. Hey, you did it. I was hoping you would go live. Yes, it's a interesting experience to say the least. No clue what I'm doing. All right, let's see. I think there's been a couple questions about diversification. So I saw this one, and I saw this on the post, so I was going to bring this up. I appreciate you also putting it in the chat. So, and then there's one down here. And I've talked about diversification before, but I'll answer for y'all here as well. So part of the challenge with investing is there's so much different pieces of information that you get, right? So many quotes and so many I don't know what the word is, absolute truths that people always say, diversification is good, right? If a stock is, I don't know, I can't think of any more now. See, that's what happens when I'm put on the spot. So what I would say is that diversification is great if diversification is your goal, right? So what diversification is a risk mitigation strategy, right? So if you spread your risk across multiple stocks, multiple different industries, then the idea is that in theory, it should reduce the risk that any one thing or event will totally wipe out your portfolio, right? So what I think about it is that diversification is absolutely critical once you get into the stage of trying to preserve your portfolio, right? So specifically, if you're close to retirement, you're in retirement, absolutely, diversification is critical. Because if you have anything happen and your portfolio goes down by 50%, you're in a really tough spot, right? Because you don't really have the ability to make that back up once you're once you're in retirement. So I think where people get confused is when they're in the growth stage of their portfolio and they say, well, I want to be well diversified. Now, if it's because you're risk averse, then absolutely, right? You should do that. If you're one of those people that's like, look, if my portfolio goes down, more than 20% in a year, I'm going to totally freak out and I can't invest that way because it scares me, then yes, you should, try to have a more diverse, lower risk portfolio, right? So a great example of that is like my mom. I mean, she's in retirement now, but even when she was still working, she's like, I don't ever want to lose money. Like I want to make money, but I never want to lose money. And I'm like, okay, well, that's hard to do, but she's totally fine earning her 3-4% and not having hardly any risk, right? For some people, that's not going to be enough. Now, for me specifically, I am not at the stage where I'm focusing on diversification, right? It's in my goal. Like my goal says, I want to beat the market with a 20% premium, and that's it. Like that's my goal. So in my opinion, it doesn't make sense to diversify because my goal is not risk mitigation. It's to beat the market by 20%. So my decisions and my actions are all to beat the market by 20%, or pretty much for the most part. Now, does that mean that I'm taking on risk? Absolutely. That's what that means, but I'm okay with that, right? So that's why everybody needs to understand their own kind of strategy and goal and risk tolerance, because you may not be okay with that. Like, look, when I first bought Nvidia, it dipped like 10%, 20%, like almost right after. I have other stocks. I think Lulu was down like 30%, 20%, right? It didn't bother me. I mean, I didn't enjoy it, but it was one of those things where I just understand that it's part of the process and not everything's going to work out. So, what I would say is diversification is great as long as you understand what it's doing and that's what you're trying to achieve. What I would say is I think most people would do better to have the mindset of, I want to diversify my income and maybe not my growth portfolio, right? Because if you diversify your income, like you can have your stocks be well diversified and growing slowly. But if you only have one income and you lose your job, you're totally screwed, right? So having diversity in your income is actually where the real power is, because, it means that if something happens where you lose an income, you're not, completely screwed. All right. I've gone off on a tangent now. See, when I see comments like this, it says, yes, and you're laughing, and that's great. I'm glad you're having a good time. I have no idea what this is in relation to, because the chat is like crazy and I'm slow. So, hold on. Missed one. What do I think about cybersecurity stocks? I feel like they benefit from AI, other secular growth trends. Yes, I love them. I totally agree with you. They're absolutely in a huge trend. Obviously, cloud is a trend. So anything related to cloud, like cloud security, is going to be there. Yes, I did invest in Cloudflare. That was one of the big reasons why I did. For them, I also believed in their edge computing future, and I still do. And I think that's going to be huge as AI inference continues to grow. So huge fan of pretty much anything cloud security. Like, I will be honest, all these stocks on your list here were all stocks on my watch list that I looked at before I invested in Cloudflare. So, and honestly, I could have picked one or two more of those when I bought Cloudflare, but I just like Cloudflare the best. So, yep. Yes. So I love this. I just made the switch to Free Tax USA last year. It was super painless, easiest TurboTax, and it was free. So I do the taxes for obviously myself and my wife, and also our son, who is an adult now. I used the free thing for his so that he wouldn't get kind of caught up in this TurboTax loop that I did. I just would have too much that I would have to port over to do that for myself. I'm not ready for that pain yet, but maybe one day. All right. Let's see what else we got. Depends on price. I'm guessing this is about the Apple lamp robot. Yes, depends on price. Totally agree. Am I still offering a paid membership? Any one-on-one sessions? Yeah, so a couple parts about this. I do have channel memberships that I talked about a little bit earlier. They're like only $5 a month. I don't do much on there yet. It's just real-time buy and sell updates. I do a bi-weekly portfolio evaluation update where I go through. It's just like my price to cash flow to growth calculation that I just update every 2 weeks. And then I am probably going to start doing some videos where maybe I go through my watch list a little bit more, but it's just to have a place that's kind of outside of a normal thing. In terms of one-on-one coaching, I had teased that in January, but as I was working on it, I'm still working on it, by the way. I'm trying to get a balance between where it makes sense from the amount of time I would have to spend to do it well to what it would have to be priced at to make it worth it. And so I'm kind of working on a couple of things where I think a lot of what people will probably want is actually building a strategy for themselves, like having my help to do that. So I think what I'm going to try to do is create like a digital workshop where you could actually work through it at your own pace, where it could be priced at a reasonable level. Just because if I did all those one-on-one, it just, like, I wouldn't have enough spots to make it worthwhile, just because I have my own stuff that I have to do in my life. And so I wouldn't be able to do very many a week. So I'm still working through the details on that. If you have a preference of what you want to see, please let me know and I'll consider it. That's why I haven't announced anything, because I'm like, man, the price that I would have to do this at, no one is going to want to do that. And rightfully so. So I'm trying to come up with a compromise. All right. ASML, great company. I have nothing but positive things to say about them. I just chose Nvidia and TSM kind of in the chain just because I understand their business better. What I don't know as much about ASML is how much of their business is AI related compared to just non-AI chip related. What is the fact that they're a Dutch company mean to the whole geopolitical risk thing, because it's still kind of tied to Taiwan and China just because of TSM. I don't know. So it was one of those things where I understood the other two better, so that's why I went with them. But I don't fault anybody for investing in ASML. They're also great. You guys are awesome, by the way, for being here at this initial live stream. I'm loving this. This is great. Wishing you and your family well. Thank you so much for that. You as well. It's why we do this, or it's why I do this. I love this. All right. Hey, I love your chill vibe videos. You come across as authentic. Don't change. P.S. Less seeking alpha ads, please. Now, I have no problem with people commenting, like this and saying that. There have been a lot more videos related to seeking alpha because I'm doing the monthly alpha picks thing, and I did the thing about the virtual analyst. So I get it. I know people don't like those. I will say this, the ones where people are like, oh, you're purely garbage for doing this. I don't really appreciate that, because I'm like, dude, I've made over 250 videos on this channel that you can go watch for free. And not all of them are about products for Seeking Alpha, but I do use Seeking Alpha. They're in all my videos in terms of the actual tools I'm using. So, and they are, a really good partner, or they have been with me. They took me on when I had like no subs and hardly any views. And they're a thing that I actually use. So that's why I promote them, and hopefully you guys understand. But I appreciate comments like this. I get it. All right. I'm going to answer this one about Bitcoin. I know that not everybody likes Bitcoin. A lot of people in the stock community like, Bitcoin. But if you know the history of my channel, or even just myself, you know that I have a very long history with Bitcoin. I made a bunch of old videos about Bitcoin that actually talk about how it actually works and all that. So it's one of the things that I'm probably pretty knowledgeable about. I bought my first Bitcoin in 2014, so that'll tell you how long that I've been kind of involved or understanding it. It was part of like my work job. So, IBIT, FBTC, do I have any thoughts on where Bitcoin is going in the short and long? In the short, no, because I just don't, right? I mean, markets do what markets do. I am a huge believer in what Bitcoin is in terms of why it was created. So if you guys hear that, that is my stomach growling. How crazy is that? If that's on the stream, that'll be like really, I don't know, embarrassing maybe? I don't know. We'll have to see. Anyway, Bitcoin. So I think long term, it's going to continue going up, only because it actually achieves the goal of what it was meant to be, which was a digital asset outside of the traditional financial system, right? And we can argue back and forth about, if it does that or, not. Now, if you buy things like FBTC, which is the ETF, right? I think that's the Fidelity one. Then you don't really get that benefit, but you get exposure to the price action, right? Which is okay. It's totally fine as long as you understand the difference and that's what you're trying to do. So in general, I'm a believer that it will continue to go up. How fast, by when, I have no clue. But it is an asset that I don't think is going away. I think anybody who is calling it like, I don't know what the words are, like it's tulips or whatever in 2025 is insane, in my opinion. Now, I'm only talking about Bitcoin. I'm not talking about all that other stuff out there. I have pretty strong opinions about that as well. I think for most people, anything outside of Bitcoin is not really anything that you should probably be involved in unless you are extremely risk tolerant and you're okay with losing any money that you play with there. There's obviously a lot of opportunity to make, money on big like momentum swings in crypto. But again, that is a totally different mentality than, hey, I'm gonna build a portfolio of strong companies and build wealth over time, right? Like those are two different ball games. So as long as people understand that and they go into it with that mindset, then hey, it's your money, do what you want. If people are interested in Bitcoin as like small exposure into their portfolio, I do think it's interesting, again, as long as you're, mentally prepared for the wild price action, the wild, articles and comments and everyone telling you that it's crazy or that it's the, greatest thing ever, right? if you're able to handle that mentally, having a small percentage of it, in my opinion, is totally fine, and in some ways can be advantageous. Now, specifically about like FBTC, so I actually talked about how I opened up a bunch of accounts at Fidelity and I moved some stuff over there. I've loved Fidelity, by the way, not sponsored. I just think they're awesome. I actually opened a Fidelity crypto account. It's not the same as actually holding Bitcoin. It's different. But if you're only comfortable with like an ETF like FBTC or Fidelity crypto account, it is definitely a way to get exposure to price action in a way that's not quite as scary of actually having to hold it and manage it yourself. So that's my thoughts on it. If you guys have any other questions, love to talk about it. I just don't do it much on the channel because, you know, a lot of people are like, ew, don't, you know, talk about that. So anyway, all right. Sorry, I am like totally behind on these comments. I'm gonna do my best here, and I'm probably going to go here for a few more minutes. I know you guys all have things you'd probably rather be doing. So Nilton asked about Archer Aviation. I got that question from Gen Z as well. I don't know anything about them, but I will probably dig into it with Palantir because that also gets brought up a lot. And it's something I need to understand anyway. So be prepared for something maybe in the future. So, all right. I'm assuming this is my mom was loving those CDs and high yield savings accounts. Yes, she does. Let's see. Can I talk more about emotions, both positive, McDonald's, and negative, Intuit, how it affects my goals and strategies? So what do I do when they contradict each other? I don't know. So here's my thoughts on it. I know a lot of people say that we should just be very cold and calculated when we do this. I just disagree, right? I don't think that we have to be cold and calculated when we invest. You can if you prefer it that way. I think you can be smart and have a strategy and follow it and still understand that, you know, we're humans. And if I want to hold McDonald's because I love McDonald's and I have a ton of great memories with my grandfather and my dad who are, you know, no longer here anymore, that's totally fine. Like there's nothing wrong with that. I will say I have considered trimming it to where it's not such a big percentage of my portfolio, especially after these last earnings, because I was like a little worried, even though stock's gone up, which is great. But I just feel like, again, it all depends on what your goals are. If your goals are to impress people on the internet with how amazing you are and how every single decision you ever made was always right, then cool. Like, you know, people should do what they want. It's just not my goal, right? Like, I'm okay with saying, you know what, I love McDonald's and I'm going to hold it in my portfolio, even if it's just symbolic, right? In this case, I still hold 100 shares, which is more than symbolic, but I think that's totally fine. And like Intuit, I'm like, look, if I'm going to put my hard-earned money in a company, I don't want it to be a company that I can't stand, even if there be a good, you know, winner, right? I just feel like I only have 11 companies in my portfolio. I can find 11 companies that'll be winners that I don't hate. I think so anyway, right? That's kind of how I look at it. So again, I mean, people should do what they want. I'm not, it doesn't bother me. It's one of those things where I'm like, there's chance to everything we do. Like if you guys watch the video about the Annie Duke book, right? The whole point of thinking in bets is that even if you do all the analysis right, you do everything right, there's still an element of chance that it can go wrong. So I look at it as, look, even my strategy, it's a guide. It's not something that I'm like, oh my God, you know, like this company doesn't meet this one particular criteria, I'm not going to invest in it. I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to do it anyway. Like Cloudflare, that was a great example. I'm going to just do it anyway. I know their ROIC is negative. Snowflake's is too, by the way. But I believe in this trend and let's see what happens. And well, we saw what happened. So, you know, I think it's a combination of we should do what makes sense to us. And if our emotions are part of that decision, I think that's okay. And just kind of monitor your progress towards your goals as you go. And if you're not meeting your goals, then maybe dial back on the emotion a little bit. If you are meeting your goals, then, you know, you're okay. That's how I look at it. All right. Sorry, there's been, I love this. Hello, Matt, I'm from Greece. I wish you the best. I've got core satellite strategy. How about that? Core satellite's amazing. And technically, that's also what I'm doing. I just don't really talk about it, right? I told you guys we have not a bunch of accounts. We have a couple of accounts that are only invested in the S&P 500 still. Like my wife's retirement account, only invested in the S&P 500. It's been invested in that for 20 years or however long she's had it. And so the portfolio I share with you guys is my individual stock portfolio. So technically I'm doing a core satellite investment plan myself. So yeah. Will you make less educational content? Yeah, so this is a good question. I've got this question before too. I get asked by people like, "Hey, why don't you make like a 3 stocks to buy now video?" I don't do that because I don't like those videos. I mean, they're fine, right? Like again, I'm not hating on anybody else. If that's what people want to do with their channel, that's good for them. Here's my challenge. If I'm telling you here's 3 stocks to buy now, and I didn't actually buy them, then what are we even saying, right? It's not good enough for me to buy, but I'm telling you to buy them. Like I just wouldn't do that. So that's why I don't make those type of videos. That's why the videos you see of me when I buy something is like, hey, look, I think this looks attractive. I bought it. Here's how much I bought. Here's how much of my portfolio it is. And so if you agree, cool, right? We can have that experience together. But that's why I don't make those videos like the 10 best growth stocks. Because if you're like, hey, if these are the 10 best, stocks and only 2 of them are in your portfolio, then what's up with that, right? It doesn't make sense. So that's why I don't do it. Again, that's just me. That's just how I feel about it. I get that not everybody's like that, and that's okay. So if it means that I grow slower, I'm okay with that because, I know people get mad at the seeking alpha stuff sometimes, but I'm super transparent that that's what it is, right? And again, it's not like I'm just promoting them and not using their stuff. I'm actually using it. But how I am able to sleep at night is that I don't constantly pump up these, here's 8 stocks you should buy today, but I didn't buy any of them, right? I don't do that. Hopefully that makes sense. Stomach growling, what's your favorite sandwich? A free one? No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. I like Jersey Mike's, actually. We have a Jersey Mike's where we live, and we've really been enjoying that. Pretty much anything. So, yeah, I like Jersey Mike's. Do you trade options? Actually, I'm going to get back to this one. Stomach is asking for more whiskey. Cheers. All right. Do I trade options? So not technically, not today. No. I have in the past. And when I say trade options, really all I do with options is in the past, I've done like a covered call or a cash secured put, which is basically just trying to get a little bit of extra income with a long-term mindset of actually holding the companies after they execute, right? And I told you guys that I may start doing that again for companies like McDonald's. I think they're a great candidate for that because it allows me to get a little bit more return, hopefully, from a stock that probably won't beat the market. So I may explore that, but again, it gets complicated, and I try not to do stuff that's overly complicated because again, it's just, I think for most people, honestly, just focusing on how to increase your income and consistently investing in something, even if it's S&P 500, any ETFs you like, a few individual stocks, is probably going to do like wonders for your overall like net worth or financial situation. So I just feel like the more complicated we get, I don't know, it just leads people down a path that they don't need to be down. But I will say a covered call, a cash secured put are actually really smart ways to get a little bit more return while you wait for great companies. So that's my thought on that. All right. This is a good idea. So I love your analysis always. Would be awesome if you could do a video reviewing the current portfolios of great investors. Yeah, I've seen other people do this, and I can definitely do that. I actually think it would be good to do as like a proof that even the great ones don't get everything right. Like I think that is a really good message to send, right? Just because it helps all of us for our own confidence. Like, not to trash Warren Buffett, because I love Warren. I've learned a ton from his books, and I went to the Berkshire, investor meeting 2 years ago. But if you look at some of his track record over the past decade or 20 years, there's some real dogs in there, right? Or just ones that just really didn't perform, well compared to the market. And he's even said that himself. He said, look, our success has been a handful of really great decisions that we've held on to. And so I think those messages are super important. And I think that would be a great insight to get from these investor portfolios. I mean, not just what they're holding now, but what have they done in the past that was not very good. I think that would be interesting to know. Oh, hey, when do I plan on doing the covered call on McDonald's? So probably soon. So the only thing that was holding me back from doing that was McDonald's had been down for a while. So here's the challenge, right? With trying to do covered calls and that, because now you are getting a little bit in, how am I going to time the market? How am I going to make sure that I do it at the right time so that it doesn't get executed, so that I earn the premium for the option, all that type of stuff. So McDonald's had been down forever. It had been down to 280 something or whatever for a while. So I was just waiting for it to come back up, which it did after earnings, a little surprisingly based on the earnings anyway. And so it'll probably be soon. I'm going to start looking here, maybe probably not tomorrow, but I'll look starting next week, just to see if it's in an area from a technical standpoint, which again, this is what I mean. It adds some complexity to it, which I don't love. So I'll probably start experimenting next week, but we'll see. I'll let y'all know when I do it. Sound quality is great. John, welcome, sir. Glad you're here. Love the live format. Is there a valuation range for stocks that you think is too high? I'm laughing because, sorry, I realize you guys have just been looking at my face this whole time. That's terrible for you, but no, I would say not in general. For instance, Cloudflare is so ridiculous right now in terms of its its valuation. Price to cash flow is at 156. That's nothing. But the funny part is Snowflake, which I just bought. If you guys missed it earlier, I just bought Snowflake on Monday. And I haven't done a video on it yet, but I'm working on it. Snowflake is at a 215 PE. Cash flow wise, it's actually better than Cloudflare, which is nice to see. But I mean, again, actually it depends on what type of cash flow you're looking at, because if you look at free cash flow, then no, but operational cash flow, it's better. So in general, for me, the answer is no. It's not that I think that any valuation is okay. It's just that valuation to me is not a primary criteria. Like I've said that before. It's a secondary criteria. I look at the business first, and really, if the business part, in my opinion, is strong, the other stuff, even the operational stuff, doesn't really bother me as much, because I can always improve, right? If a company has a super strong business, but maybe they have a lot of debt, but they're working on it, then it doesn't really bother me as long as I'm really confident about the strength of the business. Now, this has come back to bite me a couple of times. Starbucks was a great example. I sold that at the lows. It had what I thought was a really strong business, had, I think, medium operations, and then had poor, valuation at the time. Now, in hindsight, had I just held on to it, then it would have been fine. But, I really focus on the business first. And so that's where I think what I've been doing is different than what I see a lot of people doing online, because people are always talking about valuation, all the time. And I feel like it's because it's the easiest part of the analysis to kind of understand, right? It's a clear number that says, hey, look, it's 19 price to cash flow. Or you can look at a price to cash flow chart and say, look, it's trading below its 10-year average, right? Or whatever the number is. So I just think valuation is easier to understand. But I honestly, the longer I do this, the more I question how much valuation is a good predictor of returns, as opposed to really focusing on the business, right? So that's why I really changed my strategy at the end of the year to highlight how much I focus on the business and the trends that the business is in, right? Because to me, that's really what drives market returns, or at least like that's my experiment of what I think drives market returns, as opposed to a stock is priced well. And like just to hammer this home, because I think about this a lot, because I get a lot of criticism about the valuation of stuff or not really worrying about it as much. But we live in a world where it's like we have computers that are doing this every day. We have algorithms that are trading every day. And how I look at it is, if you think that the hedge fund algorithms and computers and all the data scientists don't know that a stock is trading at 11 price to cash flow, like you're insane. Of course they know, right? They're running this stuff that where it's computers doing it all day, every day, right? So it's not that it's not important. It's not that it's not good information. I just question whether or not it's really the driver of future returns or if it's something else. And so that's why for me, I've treated it as a secondary criteria where I look at it and I want to make sure it's not like insane crazy, or like in the case of Cloudflare, it was insane crazy, but I felt so strongly about the business that I didn't care. So again, like that's just me. That's just how I do it. It's not to say that it's right. In some cases, it's worked. In some cases, it hasn't. But that's my thoughts. Michael and Heidi, I don't know if I said that right. I'm assuming the flag is from the Philippines. If it is, welcome. I don't know if you know, but I'm actually half Filipino. So there's that. What are my thoughts on other chip plays like AMAT and LRCX? I don't know enough about their specific businesses to have a strong opinion. Obviously, anything related to chips, especially if it's AI chips specifically, I clearly have a bunch of stuff in my portfolio related to that. So that's my general thoughts. Tomas, ever considered buying Waste Management? Yeah, I used to own it actually, and I sold it in July of 2023, and then it's shot up and performed really great since. So that was one of my examples of ones that didn't work out. I sold it because I didn't think that their operational cash flow was actually going to, actually, I think at the time I was still using free cash flow, because they were doing all these sustainability investments, and I thought that it would hit their free cash flow hard. And I just, again, I focused on the valuation. I said, this valuation doesn't make sense for this growth. And I was wrong. So Waste Management was one of the big ones I was wrong on. Walmart, huge miss on Walmart. I sold Walmart and it just skyrocketed. Do I plan on making the lives regular? Maybe. If you guys are enjoying this, then yeah, maybe do it at least once a month. It might be fun. I don't know. We'll see. All right. Apart from companies you own, what are some companies you like, especially outside of the tech sector? Okay. Outside of tech, it's hard for me to say right now. I'm trying to think what I've looked at that's outside of tech. So part of what I touched on before is I've really narrowed in on what I'm looking at in terms of investments now, even more than just like a year ago, because I feel like again, it goes back to the strategy that I don't need to find every opportunity. I just need to find enough good opportunities to beat the market by 20%, right? That's kind of the goal. And so what I found is that I feel a lot more comfortable when I'm looking into companies that I understand well, or at least better. And so my background is more in tech and payments. So I had a computer science undergrad. I started as a programmer. And then I moved over to the business side, did like product management and like strategy work on the business side. So those areas are areas where I feel very comfortable. And so what I've done over the past year is I've, really concentrated in those areas more because that's where I understand more. Like I really was getting out of my element, even with something like Lulu, with something like UNH. It's not that those aren't great companies. It's just that I don't know anything. So I'm even trying to read stuff and I'm trying to learn, and I'm just like, I don't even know what this stuff even means. So the approach that I took is, slightly different in that I'm not trying to find every great stock. I'm just trying to find enough great stocks that I understand. And that's kind of my approach. So in terms of in tech, ones that I'm interested in or that I want to look at more, actually, sorry. One that I have that's outside of tech that I have on my watch list, I'll just share with you guys, is Wingstop. And I've talked about Wingstop before. Wingstop is just insane. I love their product. It's delicious. We love Wingstop. But that's one where, like their valuation, I don't understand it. And actually, let me share my screen. Sorry. So the challenge that I have here with like Wingstop, I mean, it's like 88 PE. It's at a 47 price to cash flow. Now, again, I'm not against investing in something like that. It's just like, are chicken wings worth that? Like emotionally, yes, they're worth that. From an investment standpoint, I don't know. But like Wings, one of those where I like the company, so I just keep it on my watch list just in case, and then we'll see what happens. But anything in tech is almost all within the AI trends, right? So I'm a huge believer in that. We talked earlier about the cybersecurity ones. Anything related to cybersecurity, anything related to edge computing, anything related to data, all that stuff to me is interesting. So yeah. All right. Does Snowflake have a moat? Invested in some under 130s, not that much analysis. Some say has a data moat. Yeah. My take on Snowflake's moat, or what I have been calling their tangible market advantage, is a couple of things. One, they have a pretty innovative platform. So they split out storage and compute. And how I understand that is a lot of times when you have like a data platform, right, you put all these huge amounts of data, on a server somewhere, and then you're trying to do your compute on that same platform, right? And so you have these things where if you ever if you ever worked, how much of this have I had? If you ever worked in a corporate, like a tech area, you have these instances where a person runs a crazy query and they take down the whole database, right? So what Snowflake does with their platform is they split out, storage and compute. And so what happens is you're able to kind of scale those, in different ways. See, this is what happens when you're not able to edit. You have stuff in your throat that is on stream. So hold on one second. So Snowflake, they split out storage and compute. So that's one thing, kind of an innovative, way they have their platform. And they're also kind of known for kind of being really scalable and all that stuff out of the box. So you don't have to do as many customizations, which again is a pro or con depending on what you want. And they're also cloud agnostic, right? So part of the challenge with the other kind of data platforms is that they're tied to the specific cloud that they're in. So AWS cloud, Google, Microsoft, etc. So if companies don't want to be held down by one cloud provider, then they want a data platform that's cloud agnostic. Obviously, Databricks is another competitor in that space, which is interesting, but they're not public though. So yeah, so is that enough of a tangible market advantage? That's actually one of the questions that I bring up in my analysis that'll be on my video. Personally, I think yes, but obviously that's up to, all of us as individuals. Oh, my dog's trying to come in. Jaxie boy, come here. Come here. He's coming. Hold on. Come here, dude. Why don't you come on the stream, dude? Come here. Come here. Come on. Up. Ooh, he's like, no. This is Jax. Whole world, Jax. All right, so that was fun. That was the best part of the stream right there. It's all downhill from here. I don't know if that answered your question on Snowflake, but more to come. Have a video that I'm working on. Let's see what else is in the chat. Sorry, I'm like so behind, so I apologize. Okay, any thoughts on the Tesla bubble? It's got to pop soon, right? Elon has lost his mind. Now, I've talked about Tesla before, and what I've said is that I'm a huge fan of Tesla, the company. It doesn't meet my own criteria to invest in, though. Like, it's one of those things where, from like a margin perspective, like it's all the fundamentals are basically as a car company, and I just don't want to invest in a car company. I know there's a lot more potentially out there in the future, but that's kind of how it looks today, and that's why I don't really invest in it. And at the end of the day, I want a company to be growing, and they just like they don't have enough of those things for me to not, or for me to ignore the other stuff. Now, I will say this: I'm a huge fan of Elon, and I know that is, depending on what your political affiliation is today, that may or may not be a popular thing to say, but I was a fan of Elon when the Democrats loved him. I'm a fan of Elon now that the Republicans love him. I don't do politics, so I just like people who do amazing things, and I think Elon does that. Actually, I have my hat here, which is SpaceX, which I am a massive, huge believer of SpaceX. I think they're an amazing company and do amazing things. So yeah, I'm an Elon fan. However, Tesla does not meet my criteria for an investment. I hope they do well. I hope they succeed. But that's my thoughts on it. All right. So I'm also a software guy, and most of my portfolio is tech. Problem is when they go down, they all go down together. So yeah, true. So if you're invested in tech or any kind of risk on assets, then yeah, when you have years like 2022, then they're all going to go down. It's going to be painful. The question is, what's your time horizon? What's your risk tolerance? If you have all those things taken care of, then, it may not be a big deal. Oh, Anders Peterson, as a database admin, personally do not like Snowflake. Please expand in the comments if you can or if you have time. I appreciate it. This live show was great. Longtime follower. Thank you. Appreciate it. I'm glad you're enjoying it. I'm just winging it, so I'm glad someone's enjoying it. Juan D, are you going to drink tequila tonight? No, sir. I'm drinking Bullet Bourbon. I'm slowly. Look at that. The ice is gone. Terrible, terrible. All right. Anders said that might take days. I honestly would love to hear your perspective on this. If you want to send me an email, I would love it. If you actually just like matt@buildinvestlive.com is my email. So if you're into that, you want to send me an email, you don't mind sending me an email, I would love to hear your perspective on why you don't like Snowflake. And yeah, if not, that's cool. But yeah. All right. German Shepherd. Yes, they're amazing. He's awesome. I think I'm at the end of the chat. I can't tell what is going on here. I'm trying to think what else I had to talk about. We're actually pretty close to time. I had planned to stop at about an hour, but it took me so long to get through all the questions that I just kept going. So I'm going to take a couple more questions and then probably end it at 6:30. Hopefully you guys are okay with that. So let's see what we got here. I know I missed a bunch, so I'm sorry if I missed your question. It wasn't on purpose. It's because I'm slow. Okay. Yeti Wise Investing. You say you're 14, but I feel like if a recession happens, I'll be super happy and will not feel any fear of biases. Am I biased against biases? So first of all, if you're 14, I don't know what the rules are on YouTube of if you're supposed to be watching this or not, but cool if you are. And if you're interested in investing at 14, then more power to you. You will do extremely well. I did not have an interest in investing at 14. I was probably playing on a Super Nintendo or something like that, for those that remember what that is. So yeah, I mean, again, if you're 14 and you're wanting to learn about investing, your timeline is so long that I wouldn't worry about anything related to macro and all this stuff, recessions. It does not matter. The main point is try to find ways to increase your income, start investing consistently, no matter how you do it, and you're going to do very well. So, yeah. All right. Okay. Okay. Uber. So sorry. Uber. I get asked about Uber all the time. I don't have enough of a strong opinion on Uber or I looked at it a while back. I haven't looked at it since. My main question with Uber was that I wasn't sure about the robotaxi trend. Like how durable is the robotaxi trend, right? Now part of that could be because of where I live. I live in Texas, right? Where I've used Uber and Lyft before, but I tend to live kind of like outside of the city. It's more like spread out. So it's like less of an everyday thing here for me personally. But I do know that it's used a ton, right? What I was more interested in instead of robotaxi was more of the last mile delivery stuff. So I was looking at DoorDash a while back, and it had been on my watch list, since like August. Because I know that you have companies like Walmart that are using DoorDash for last mile delivery. I think that trend is super interesting and is going to continue to grow like crazy. But it was one of those things where I thought like, Cloudflare was more interesting. And so I invested in that instead of DoorDash. So, I know Uber does that type of stuff too. I know they have Uber Eats too. I just haven't looked at it as strongly as I have other things, but I know a lot of people like it. Obviously, Ackman just bought a bunch of it. So, again, part of the beauty of investing in secular trends is that you don't have to be perfect. You can just kind of get close to the target, and the fact that it's a secular trend is going to bring a bunch of stuff up. So that's kind of, my thoughts on it. And one of the reasons why I have it as a core part of my strategy. So, Balaj, you said, can you get my question? I don't know. Where is it? Like, did I miss it? Let me look, man. I don't see it. Oh, here it is. All right. If I had to choose from Microsoft, Google, or Tesla, oh man, you're killing me. For a high growth return for the coming 10 years, which one would I choose? Oh man, this is a tough one. I actually think so. I don't want to give you guys just the politically correct answer here. It really depends on your risk tolerance, right? Because the only way that you can pick Tesla is if your risk tolerance is super high. However, if you're telling me, or if you're asking me, if you bought one share of each of these and what's the return going to be in 10 years? Tesla is an interesting, it's just an interesting growth potential there. But the problem is that it's mostly potential. So you have to go on belief more than facts, right? Now, Microsoft and Google, again, these are some of the strongest companies in the whole world, right? I think they're going to be fine. I think they're going to provide good returns for the next decade. Most of my portfolio is in big tech companies. It's not in Microsoft or Google. It's a smaller part in Google, but it's in Amazon, Meta, even Apple, because I feel strongly about them, right? But you're asking me high growth return, so that's a different question. Again, if you like adventure, I think the answer is Tesla, but it could also, not do anything. So there's that. Again, that's why risk tolerance and understanding your own personal strategy matters. Sorry, I missed your question. Can anything else go wrong for Boeing? Are they near the bottom? I know nothing about Boeing. I know nothing about the aviation industry. I don't know. In general, I'm not a huge fan of turnaround plays just because, a company has to be pretty bad to get into that state. And I just feel like there's better opportunities for my money. But that's just me. I know other people love them. Hold on, I got a cough here. Man, I'm like about to die. Look at this. Google. Everyone's choosing Google. That's fair. The thing with Google that we don't know, my eyes are like watering now, is that as AI continues to evolve, their business may totally evolve, right? Like we were just talking about Apple and like the home robotics. Apple's product business could totally explode or change if they get into home robotics. So, a decade's a long time, but yeah. All right. see. There was one about S&P Global. So yes, I did look at S&P Global when I researched MSCI. I think at the time MSCI had a better growth outlook, and that's why I picked them. I will say I checked on MSCI today, and I'm very happy that I cut it from my portfolio when I did. It's not that it's a bad company. It's just I was looking at other things. It was a small portion of my portfolio. So anyway, it's worked out so far. All right, last one, and I think I'm going to be done. Actually, no, you know what? So let's talk about the thing that I actually want to talk about, because tonight, if you guys have not watched my favorite show, which is called Severance, I highly recommend that you watch it. It's on Apple TV Plus, and I know that not a lot of people have Apple TV Plus. That's like the running joke. But I'm telling you, they have the best originals out of any of the platforms by far right now, and not just with Severance. There's a bunch of other ones too. I talk about it on X all the time. So you guys, it's like, I think I actually put on X that I'm like hitting the microphone, that I'm like, at times, I'm just a fan channel for Severance or whatever. I was going to try to find it. But anyway, it's only in season 2. Go back and watch season 1. It's amazing. Season 2 is like a level above. It's like even better. But I am like so excited for the episodes like every Thursday night, because they technically release Friday, but they release them on Thursday night, 8 p.m. Central. And it's just one of those shows where it's just so well done. The story is so good. The visuals are so cool. And I'm excited because people are like really catching on to it, and it's becoming way more popular now, which it totally deserves. And here's a little tip. One, if you didn't know that they release them on Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Central, now you know. But the other tip is they actually have a podcast with Ben Stiller, who's the executive producer and I think director of most of the episodes, and Adam Scott, who's the lead in the show. They do a podcast every week. It's called the Severance Podcast, and they go through each of the episodes and all the things that happen. It's amazing. It's hilarious. They have guests from the show that happen to go there or happen to be on the podcast. So it was cool because they did it right before the beginning of season 2, and they did a recap of all of season 1. And now they're doing it for all the season 2 episodes as well. So if you like Severance, it's a awesome way to hear from those guys. And it's pretty hilarious too, because they're just pretty funny. So with that, I'm going to leave you guys with that. If you have not watched Severance, I highly, highly recommend it. It's worth just paying for Apple TV Plus for 1 month just to watch it. You'll be like, this is the most amazing show ever. So if you like stuff like Mr. Robot, so Mr. Robot's one of my other shows that I love. It's kind of in that same kind of, vein. So I think it's really cool. All right. I think that's it, man. I am like exhausted because I have no idea what I just did. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this and it was fun. If I missed your question, I'm sorry. Reach out to me on the community post or X or wherever, and I'll try to get to it. And I will, I guess we'll do it again. If you guys like this, we'll try it again. What I may do for next week is I'm actually recording this, so I'll probably put some clips together and just maybe make it as a video for next week for the people that missed the stream. I don't know. I'll play around with it and see. But yeah, appreciate y'all being here. Thanks a lot. Keep stacking wins and see you in the next one. Peace.